Ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction, and this is how the United Kingdom's healthcare system works. The NHS, I think it's called, right? I don't know. Yeah, National Health Service, NHS. So yeah, this UK has this, free healthcare for everybody, something like that. There was a case like Bernie Sanders makes a case about it in United States. Like every developed country, major developed country has healthcare in the system. If that's the case, even I'm surprised why United States doesn't have that. So yeah, I always want to see a video about like how does NHS work, because everybody agrees that NHS works perfectly. Even though people might have their issues, they love their national healthcare system. There was in the Olympics, they started some kind of a ceremony with tribute to NHS. So yeah, let's watch this one. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want me to react to some video, comment down. And yeah, let's see this.
Super Tuesday came and went, and the Democratic presidential race is narrowing to two very different candidates: far-left Bernie Sanders and the more moderate Joe Biden. Biden and Sanders have clashed on the best approach to reforming U.S. healthcare. Sanders wants to get rid of private insurance altogether.
It's just weird to hear that far-left Bernie Sanders. How the hell Bernie Sanders far-left? He might have socialist-like ideas, but it's not. It's like how he says it in lots of times, like it's capitalist, plus or something like that. Like, implementing some things as a right is not far-fetched to think. Like having a minimum wage raised, having a free healthcare. I mean, these are some basic things that a society must have if you're really that rich. I mean, United States is the richest country in the world. I mean, they can afford it. Come on. And especially I've seen him make a case, I don't know if it's true or not, that in US per person everybody spends more money in their healthcare than other people who has free healthcare there do. Like in that, basically all the industries, pharmaceutical industries basically charges more in this capitalist system in USA, while in Britain and everywhere they don't charge as much, because basically United Kingdom provides the service and their prices are low. So in the end, if you measure up with tax and per person, it's half or something like that. So basically, in United States, people spend more money and they still don't have good enough healthcare system. I mean, that's just, if that's the case, they should really, follow United Kingdom's steps, I guess.
Together, while Biden proposes building on the framework left over from Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act.
Bernie says that you have to bring people together and we have to have Medicare for all. But Bernie says, and he says he wrote the damn thing, but he's unwilling to tell us what the damn thing's going to cost. The idea middle-class taxes aren't going to go up is just crazy.
What Medicare for All will do is save the average American substantial sums of money.
The U.S. already spends more money on healthcare than any other developed country. There's one country that spends less than half what the U.S. does on healthcare, and people generally don't pay anything out of pocket when they go to the doctor. The United Kingdom. And out of all the healthcare systems we've looked at, the UK appears the most socialist.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, I've seen somewhere like a guy came up with, a pharmaceutical company came up with some kind of a drug and it cost them $20 or something, but they were charging $200 just because they can, to make money off people. I mean, if that's the case, no wonder that, it charges, it's double the cost in United States than in United Kingdom, because government is not going to fall for that. Government is like, what, this doesn't fit right. I'm not going to pay that much. You want to sell, pharmaceutical things, only we are the only way to do so. So, get it a reasonable price. So prices of pharmaceutical comes down, and then, it comes out of people's taxes. So overall, they spend very less.
Government effectively runs the whole thing. Right now, the UK is having its own debate over how to reform the National Health Service. So how does the UK system compare to the US? And what reforms may be coming? In 2018, the United States spent around $10,500 US on healthcare for each of its residents. The United Kingdom spent around $4,000 US. That means the United Kingdom spends 9.8% of its GDP on healthcare, while the US spends 16.9%. Despite spending less, the United Kingdom manages to have healthier citizens who live longer and are less likely to die in childbirth. In 2017, life expectancy in the UK was 2.7 years higher than in the US, and the UK has roughly 1.5 times fewer deaths that could have been avoided by access to better healthcare.
I remember some people saying, some Americans are saying, I don't know if it was some comment or somewhere, like, I'd rather, test what it is that I'm going through rather than call 911 or something, because that will cost fortune. So somebody who's thinking that they are having heart attack, they're like, no, it's not a heart attack, it's probably gas or something, and just they are not dialing 911 because that will cost them a fortune. That's just effed up, man.
Infant mortality rate is lower in the United Kingdom, with 3.9 deaths per 1,000 live births as opposed to 5.8 in the United States. And the maternal mortality rate in the US is nearly 1.5 times higher than in the United Kingdom. So how is the UK system structured so that it gets these results while spending significantly less than the United States system?
The National Health Service is a case where the British decided right after World War II that healthcare should be government's job, like paving the streets, putting out fires, running the library, running the parks.
That's T.R. Reid, author of the book The Healing of America. He traveled the world exploring different countries' healthcare systems.
It's a service you get when you need it, and you never get a bill. It's like going to the library. They don't charge you to check out a book.
Key thing about the NHS is it's a risk-sharing system, so everyone pays into it through their tax. If you need to use it, you don't have to pay anything else. So in a sense, it's not free because it's paid out of taxation.
Dr. John Puntis is a pediatrician who recently retired from the NHS.
Nothing's really free. Obviously, taxes are the way to pay for things, but in the end, that eases people. Like let's just say, basically, richest people pay something that poorer people who can't pay for the health. I mean, it's like a public service thing. I mean, health is the one thing that people should have security over. I mean, you shouldn't be scared because you have bad health and your pockets are empty. Like, I'm gonna die, fine, then I'm gonna die. I can't afford 911 or something. So, this NHS is kind of makes sense, man.
He's also co-chair of an organization called Keep Our NHS Public. All of his comments are reflective of the organization and not his personal views.
It's a fair system in that the more money you earn, the more tax you pay, and the more you contribute. But there has been discussion about whether tax should be increased to pay for sorting the NHS out in terms of the current deficiencies and problems, and that is controversial. I think a lot of people favour some tax increase, but then there are other people who say, well, maybe the focus should be on companies that don't pay tax and people that aren't paying tax as the first step.
I would call that socialized medicine. Government provides the care, government pays for the care, it's paid for through taxes, everybody's covered the same. To me, that sounds like socialized medicine.
The term socialized medicine has become a political football, especially in the United States.
If the NHS, if that's socialized medicine, it's great. And we hear this term mainly coming from the US, where it's used as for scaremongering. I would say if the NHS is socialised medicine, we like it, and most people are still very, very supportive of the concept of a national health service.
Each of the UK's 4 constituent countries.
I don't get it why people are so afraid of socialist service. Why? Because some socialists in the past were dictators. Socialism led to dictatorship, so in the end US will become dictatorship. Is that it? This is just bullshit that rich people spread, and poor people, some of the poor people are really stupid to understand. That's what's happening here. They are like, yeah, this is wrong. Idiots. The rich people who are riling you up, they are the one who's saving their pockets. When are you going to launch a company so you won't get taxed? You really think you're going to launch a major millionaire company? You don't have thousands. You can't even afford your own healthcare system. So it feels stupid whenever I see these rallies with the red hat Trump people. They are basically poor people who drive trucks and things. They're poor people and constantly, yeah, this is socialist system. We don't want it. Idiot. The people who are riling you up, they are saving their own money. People are, people like Bernie is talking about taxing them to provide you service. Why are you supporting that?
Have their own branch of the NHS, so rules differ slightly between them, but all of the branches operate under the purview of the UK Parliament. There are some services that require patients to pay something out of pocket, such as dental, eye care, and certain prescription drugs, but those fees are low compared to the US and vary by NHS branch.
Yeah,
by
that
one
makes sense.
estimate from a data analytics firm, prescription drugs cost 57% less in the UK than they do in the US. Unlike with other universal healthcare systems that are only publicly funded, the government also runs the NHS. That means doctors that work in public NHS facilities are employees of the government. Most Britons receive their primary care through general practitioners.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a common thing. If you are using pharmaceuticals and medical things as a service, like you're buying some biscuit or something in your general store, if you're making pharmaceutical like that, then they have freedom to whatever the hell they want, like raising the price 10 times, because then the freedom of selling comes into play. If you have something like NHS, basically it's government control. Government can say to these people like, no, I'm not paying you that much, and we are the only way you're gonna get go into the market, because we are the National Health Service. Only we are the way you can sell things to the people, and we are not paying that much. This is stupid. So pharmaceuticals does not get ridiculously rich, and it's a fair price all around, and people save money.
Who are frequently referred to as GPs. They typically act as gatekeepers for secondary care.
The problems that people are experiencing at the moment is it's taking longer to see your general practitioner if you want to see them.
Most GPs are private contractors with the NHS. They don't charge patients for care. Instead, they earn money directly from the National Health Service. Many GPs negotiate contracts with the NHS to determine how much they can charge the government for their services. GPs may fund their own general practice facilities, or they can rent them from the NHS or private companies. One paper from the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine found that GPs face many issues because of how general practices are funded in the UK.
Some GPs, I think increasingly, don't want to take on the running a business aspect of general practice, and so there are lots of GPs who are salaried partners, so they are paid by the practice to come in and work as a GP, but they don't do any of the business side of the stuff.
There's also a private sector in the UK's healthcare system. It's funded from a combination of out-of-pocket payments, private health insurance, and the NHS itself.
The private sector is growing because it's being consciously promoted by government, and the boundaries being blurred.
Well, I think that private healthcare has been growing at a very rapid, steady pace in the United Kingdom for the course of several decades. That's going to continue.
That's Niall Gardner. He's the director of the Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation.
With regard to the National Health Service, I mean, there's no sign at this stage that the UK will be moving to a different system to the National Health Service. All British parties are committed to the National Health Service. I think that more and more Britons will be opting for private healthcare in the coming years and decades, not least because there are long waiting lists with regard to the National Health Service.
An analysis from the London School of Economics found that in the 2018 to
So it makes sense, man. Like, if anybody can afford private insurance, they should. But NHS is going to be there. That will just make it more, available to people, I guess.
2019 fiscal year, NHS England spent around 18% of its total expenditure on the independent sector.
There's been a blurring of the boundaries, if you like. For example, cataract surgery, which is the most common operation done under the NHS. Increasingly, it's being provided in the independent sector, and the NHS has contracts with the independent sector to do that work. There are implications in terms of staffing. Private sector doesn't train its own staff, it takes it from the NHS, it cherry picks, takes the low risk patients, not the high risk patients. It has an impact on training NHS staff, and this is one of the problems with cataract surgery. If they're all going to the private sector hospitals, then the NHS staff don't become experienced in doing cataract surgery, and then along the line you find it's more difficult to staff your NHS unit, so it's not without negative consequences. We are paying private companies increasingly to do work for the NHS, including American companies, and they're very well established now, particularly in back office functions and providing advice on commissioning support, this kind of thing. They're very involved, and unfortunately that's likely to increase, and it's something which campaigners are extremely worried about.
I don't think anyone really believed.
Yeah, but why are they doing that? So why are they, going on to independent? I mean, you have NHS service. Why not make 100% that? Why are they going to the independent service? Are there some people from some pharmaceutical company paying them off or something? What is happening here? What's the benefit of going that side? Because first of all, I thought that, yeah, I mean, if you can afford independent, like, some private sector, you can afford it, people should do that. So, NHS doesn't have too much strain on them. Only people who need it can get it. In that sense, it makes sense. But, people are, NHS is going to independent, private sector to do lots of things. And that is causing issue. Why are you doing that then?
That UK voters would decide to Brexit.
The news that the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union shocked the world. The NHS was a big part of the Brexit media discourse, with the Leave campaign famously claiming that the UK would take back
the infamous bus. We send the EU 350 million a week. Let's put on NHS instead. That was bullshit, by the way. That stats is bullshit. Nowhere near that. I love how they just ran that bus, and that became this became the symbol for Brexit.
£350 million a week that could then be funneled into the NHS. The UK Statistics Authority has since said that the claim is a, quote, clear misuse of official statistics.
My name is Holly Jarman. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Health Management and Policy at the University of Michigan. Those promises really did hit home for a lot of people. The idea that money would come back from Europe to the UK was a very powerful symbol. It's not actually true. That wasn't really how EU financing works. But
of course it's not true. You really think, you're giving EU lots of money like that uselessly, that now you're going to get back? Look, it's a two-way street always. If you're giving something to EU, you're getting something back too. So it kind of levels out in the end. You're not getting 350 million back. Come on.
We still saw that was a big part of the media discourse and most likely part of people's judgment when they were casting their vote.
The UK officially left the EU 3 years after the original Brexit vote, entering a transitory period through the end of 2020 while the UK government negotiates international trade deals. The concerns about private American corporations engaging more with the NHS came up during the discussion of the post-Brexit trade talks with the United States.
When you're dealing in trade, everything's on the table. So NHS or anything else, or a lot more than that.
Backlash to President Trump's comments on the NHS led to many British politicians assuring their constituents
Trump didn't know jack shit about NHS the way he was talking about.
that the NHS was not going to be a part of the trade talks.
The NHS is in no way on the table.
President Trump then backtracked on his comments, saying he wouldn't consider the NHS as part of the trade deal.
A lot of trade negotiations are actually
He didn't even know what NHS was.
quite secretive by nature. The two sides don't really want to reveal a lot about what they're looking for in a deal. Our concern really as health researchers is that the NHS really won't be accounted for in that deal. That the UK government's preferences have been shown to be largely economic and not so much on the focusing on the health of people in Britain.
The problem is that the NHS is already on the table. It has been for a while. The politicians who are now going to be negotiating the trade deals, it's going to be across many fronts. Campaigners were saying, okay, put your money where your mouth is. If you're saying the NHS won't be in a trade deal, then let's see legislation that sets that out so it's cast in stone, and they haven't rushed to do that.
Trade negotiations cover everything at once, and it's difficult to tell how they are going to be pushing for the liberalisation of drug regulations and to what extent the Johnson cabinet would actually...
Let me get this straight. So it seems like eventually there will be a trade deal which has NHS in it with the America. So what, American pharmaceuticals would get in? If that's the case, kiss your, precious NHS goodbye. That's so effed up, man. It would be so fucked up if your NHS over time becomes so bad than it is right now, and it's all because of Brexit.
Agree with any changes that would be proposed to the way the UK regulates pharmaceuticals. It's really a central government-led process that's not that democratic and does represent big business, and I think that's why a lot of people get very concerned and anxious around trade agreements.
There are some who say the NHS won't be harmed by Brexit, even in the event a trade deal with the EU isn't reached by the end of the year.
I don't expect that we're going to see huge changes actually in the Brexit era with regard to the...
Yeah, people, I mean, obviously people will, get angry in the comments in this video. But seriously, everybody who hates EU and voted for Brexit, you did not consider many elements. Biggest element is EU was a bubble for you, all right? That protected you against lots of things. Now it's a open trade now. All right, and politicians are gonna get corrupt. More industries are gonna get involved. NHS will get screwed over, and that's just one side of it. There are lots of other areas that you get screwed. Maybe your economy will grow. Maybe during the trade you will, but lots of other things. Let's just say you'll be same as the USA is right now in terms of lots of things like NHS and things. NHS will get worse over time because more independent pharmaceutical will get in.
To the National Health Service, and so I think with regard to the NHS, we're not likely to see a significant impact as a result of Brexit. I think the free trade deal will be largely focused upon the service industry, which of course is now the largest part of both the US and British economies.
Whatever effect the trade deals end up having on the UK, reforming the NHS will continue to be a big part of the country's political conversation.
People's support for the NHS in the UK is very strong. There's no other country that, when we hosted the Olympics in London, we had nurses jumping on beds, and the NHS was actually a part of that ceremony and a part of that national celebration. The UK's NHS is very important in British politics. It's an important symbol of Britishness in that context.
So here's what I think. Only way that can be preserved if people are actively focusing on that. Like, slowly under the table legislations don't get passed that screws over NHS over the time. If people are actively checking that out, like, is anybody touching NHS? Any trade deal involves that. And if it is, people just, rally, like, people get pissed off eventually. That is the only way to check politicians in line. Otherwise, all politicians are corrupt, and, American pharmaceuticals, lots of other will eventually pay money to get some, more private sector into the NHS. So, if people are actively checking that out, like, is this trade deal involves any way NHS? If it is, people, go out on the street, start to, protest. That is the only way to keep this in check. Otherwise, let's just say there was a bubble called EU. It's broken now. Lots of other areas that were protected now is open for business. And if you don't, closely check that, it can easily get exploited. So yeah, UK's NHS, at least right now, is really great thing. I mean, apparently, as from the stats we know from the last year, it's 40% or something. That's how much they spend per person, and that's free. In USA, it's not even free. So lots of people who wants anything, any kind of medical care, they are not getting it because they're afraid of it. Like I said, I heard lots of accounts where people say, I'm not calling 911. That will cost me really bad. I mean, that's ridiculous. USA is the richest country in the world, yet their education costs immensely. The medical costs are immense. I mean, people have student debts for their whole lives. When it comes to medical, people don't call 911 because they're scared. This is not how a number one country should be. Some things like education, healthcare, things like this should be a human right. Because if you're secure in that front, people are more free to do things. Economy eventually will grow because people, there is always this bullshit argument like if we do all that, people will just be like, stoners or something. They won't do anything. That's not how humans are, man. If you give them, security at certain areas, they'll be more free. They won't be under pressure all the time. So yeah, there was, I guess, UK's healthcare system. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast for the playlist. And yeah, I'll see you next time.